Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in for another show. Welcome to all of our members and subscribers and everyone watching from all across the world. I decided to have this live stream tonight, and I will be having a video after this live stream as well, primarily because we're talking about a developing subject here. Israel is claiming, some claims, that they killed the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, in a massive terrorist attack in Beirut, in the southern suburb of Al-Dahiyah Al-Janubiyya in Beirut. 15 strikes with very heavy bombs. Reports said it was 2-ton bombs, bunker busters, the same type that the US has when it comes to their heaviest bombs as well. Not exactly that one, but from that type. They call it the Moab, or the mother of all bombs, they like to name it. And we have reports coming from Israel that they assassinated the Secretary General of Hezbollah. This was coming during Netanyahu's press conference after his UN speech, UN General Assembly speech, where he was talking about the fact that he is representing, the forces of blessings and against the forces of the curse, right? That Israel is, defending the civilization and protecting the West as well. Israel is protecting the West with its actions in Gaza and Lebanon and the region. And no one is criticizing him from the leaders of the Western countries, like, hey, don't talk on our behalf. Don't speak, not in my name or anything of the sort. No, he's talking normally. The fact that this man can go to the United Nations can safely say that the United Nations as an organization should be buried now. That's it. It's as if, someone even worse than Hitler going there and having a speech. What are we talking about here? The United Nations letting Benjamin Netanyahu go. Firstly, he was talking with seats. He was having a speech for seats. Everyone left. Hardly anyone stayed there. As a matter of fact, the majority of the people were outside protesting against him. And he was talking and he was threatening. And during the press conference that followed, he all of a sudden had this call, right, from his military advisor. I'm not sure if it was like a dramatic move that they intended really to happen, if it was just a show. But he called him and he was on the phone, and yeah, approve. Okay, approve the attack in Lebanon. Yet Joe Biden and the Pentagon said, no, we had no knowledge about the attack in Lebanon. Dude, the call happened from the United States of America. You can monitor every call on earth. And you couldn't monitor the call of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from New York to Israel to approve an attack on Lebanon at that scale that could lead to a regional war. Who are you kidding? Who are these people kidding? This is the attack that happened in Al-Dahiyah Al-Janubiyya. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a civilian area, okay? Western mainstream media is hailing the attack. Again, all because it's Hezbollah. Again, they're using the same thing as Hamas, Of course, we have our criticism about this whole approach of labeling these organizations and delegitimizing them. But then again, they're using that excuse to justify their barbarism. And Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel previously did this many times, by the way. Every time they wanted to commit, and we will get to the assassination, did it happen, did it not happen, and all of these things. Whenever they wanted to commit a massacre against the people, they say we targeted someone. In Gaza, they constantly do it. They blew up people in tents, they still do. I mean, people in Gaza now, the bodies, they're taking them in boxes, body parts of 10 people killed in one box. A man, a child, a woman, and 7 other people who they don't know. Now they're returning some of the people who they executed in Israel in containers. 80, 100 bodies no identification, no nothing. How are they killed? What happened? Nothing. This is what you're talking about. This is worse than any horror show. So anyone sitting on the other side, on the other camp, I mean, there are no words to describe these people. There are no words to describe these people, let alone the immoral people in the Arab and Muslim world who go and celebrate and mock and go out there and act like keyboard warriors against an honorable resistance who defend their people and defend the Palestinian cause. These people are at the forefront of the support of the Palestinian people. Yet some people have the audacity to sit there on their keyboards, and then in tweets, like, and joke around, and some of them celebrating what? The murder of children? What are you celebrating exactly? And again, some people, it's beyond comprehension. This is what Israel said. The IDF assesses Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah was killed in the Dahiya. IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari, the IDF attacked the central headquarters of Hezbollah. It is located under residential buildings in Beirut. Everything is under residential buildings, isn't it? But funny enough, the Kiryat in Israel, the main hub of the Israeli security establishment, is in the center of Tel Aviv. That's not civilian population. When it comes to the chosen ones and the enlightened ones, it's not civilian population. What is the Kiryat in central Tel Aviv? So that if someone attacks it tomorrow, say, oh no, they're targeting civilians. So first we had the rockets from the bedrooms, right? Going against every military logic, every physical logic, really. If you want to have a heavy missile in a bedroom, firstly, how the hell are you going to put it there? Secondly, once this thing, how are you going to launch it? Secondly, and thirdly, well, once this is launched, this is not leaving anything behind it. But now it's residential buildings. And what else are they saying now? They're calling the Lebanese population in the southern suburb of Beirut, Al-Dahiya Al-Janubiyya, evacuate. We're going to target Hezbollah's land to sea missiles that are held and kept safe in civilian buildings. Ooh, wow. So what, the Akhont and the missiles of Hezbollah now, they're sitting in your bedroom in Beirut. Be careful, everyone. 20, 30 feet sitting in your living room, right? I had a nice comment the other day from someone, and the comment section on YouTube said, my wife wouldn't let me move the sofa, let alone put a missile in the room. A missile in the room, 20, 30 feet, what are these people talking about? Anyway, they're confident. The majority of the reports in Israel are saying that he was killed. Yedioth are not saying that, Ma'ariv are saying that, confirmation, and they're saying the longer that Hezbollah take to confirm that he's alive, the more we are assured that he was indeed assassinated in this attack. We had other reports. Other reports said that what? That the leader of the IRGC was there. They said it's the central headquarters command, and one of the leaders of the IRGC was there with him. And after all of these confirmations, we don't have yet a verification from Hezbollah. What we do have, though, is information coming from sources who are close to Hezbollah saying that no, Nasrallah is safe. Nothing happened. Nasrallah is safe. He is in a safe place. We heard that from Press TV that belongs to Iran, and from a couple of other sources that are close to Hezbollah, saying that no, he's fine. But so far, we haven't had a confirmation from Hezbollah. And the main confirmation needs to come from Hezbollah. Was he assassinated or was he not? And of course, we'll get to what that means and what could happen and what Iran said. Will we see something bigger and all of that in a second? So far as Hezbollah's concerned, they haven't released a verification. And as long as we don't hear it from Hezbollah, there are suspicions that he might have been killed. He might have been killed. They are threatening again and calling the people leave immediately. Does that remind you of something? Does that remind you of Gaza? And leave to the safe zones. Firstly, they're attacking in North Lebanon now. And we had a Lebanese cleric up north saying that people targeted a guy in my neighborhood who has a garage and repairs cars. And they're saying that it's a non-Hezbollah area, not belonging to the Shia community even, right? And no, they're having, he says, the guy has a garage. What are they doing, Israel? They're including everything in the ring. Under the umbrella, of course, of Hezbollah, like they did with Hamas in Gaza. And the funny thing is, the only thing that they're doing in Lebanon is bringing people closer to Hezbollah. That's what they're doing. IDF spokesperson Hagari said that in the coming hours, the IDF will attack strategic capabilities that Hezbollah has planted in the heart of Beirut's Dahiya, a coastal missile array built with Iranian funding. In the last hour, we contacted the residents of 3 buildings in Dahiya, which are located above Hezbollah's strategic assets, and they should move away from there immediately. We will attack in a short time. To let you know, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, Israel said that Hezbollah hold their strategic weapons in, and now they repeated it again a couple of months ago in some of the garbage newspapers and tabloids and the propaganda media that belongs to Rupert Murdoch and co. Zionist slaves started to publish it, like they published the lies about the 7th of October. Covering up the fact that Israel massacred their people and ignoring evidence that came from Israel and from Israelis around Gaza, Israelis who survived the 7th of October, and even people who were pilots in the IDF Air Force saying that we were ordered to shoot at everyone going back to Gaza, regardless of who they were, and the residents saying that they killed us, the IDF was shooting at us. When Hamas was attacking, they killed most of our people. Anyway, it's important to reiterate these things, just in case some people forget. Some people have dementia when it comes to these things. He is saying now it's above Hezbollah's strategic assets in these buildings. So we moved from Beirut airport, football fields. Oh, by the way, so the Lebanese used to play football on top of Hezbollah rockets as well. Thinking ahead slightly, Israel might have considered that, some refugees might go to football fields and what have you later on to justify them bombing them, like they bomb the schools, the UN schools in Gaza, the children, the infants, the families who flee the danger zones and go to the safe zones, and then they bomb them. This is what they like to do. Bloodlust. These people thrive on blood. You're talking about next level. Some people probably can't comprehend that. But now they are in Beirut. And how kind of him, Hagari. He's so kind. He's telling people, evacuate. Oh, I want to destroy the whole building. Get the hell out of there. That's so kind of you. Of course, I have no authorization or confirmation they did that with you. When it comes to Iran, we had a report saying that the Iranian ambassador in Beirut said that the condemned attack in Beirut crossed Iran's red lines. It crossed Iran's red lines. And we also have talks from Ali Larijani, who is an advisor for the supreme leader of Iran, saying that they're crossing the red lines. And the Iranian ambassador to Beirut he said that the strikes are also game-changing. What does Iran mean by game-changing? Do they mean that the period of what was labeled as strategic patience or containing things strategically ended? Because some analysts who are observing this now are saying, well, this is the result of the lack of a response to the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. The Iranian president confirmed. The Americans told them, give us a week. The ceasefire is close. No, no, no. And then he said, clearly we see nothing. And the American lies, and the Americans lied, and Israel is escalating. Well, that's what happens in war. You know, if you don't go for them, they come for you. So from Israel's perspective, if they haven't seen a response yet, they go all out. And in Israel, they're talking about an opportunity. We have an opportunity that we've been waiting for years, according to Herzi Halevi, and also the fact that Israel authorized this. Israel authorized this assassination last Monday. Last Monday, there was a cabinet meeting, and Netanyahu, Gallant, everyone was there. They asked Netanyahu if we receive solid information about the location of the leader of Hezbollah, we would like to target him and kill him. And apparently, Benjamin Netanyahu approved that during that cabinet meeting last Monday. So we're talking about just 6 days ago. They asked him, can we do it if we find his location? Yes, we can. Israel is going all out. This is what people need to understand here. Israel is going on an all-out war. And this is Ali Larijani, by the way, the advisor of Khamenei. They now prepared and made a move that is unprecedented. What is that move? Declaring the highest level of readiness and alertness across land, air, and sea. This has never been done before. Israel declared a state of emergency already, like they declared it following the 7th of October. And after that, as far as I remember, it was only 1973, following the October War with Egypt, the 6th of October war with Egypt, or what Israel is called the Yom Kippur War. The state of emergency, but a state of top alertness when it comes to land, air, and sea, that has never been done. And people in Israel are getting ready in bunkers now in central Israel, in Tel Aviv, to prepare for an attack from Hezbollah. So far, we had an attack from Hezbollah. We had a couple of attacks, but these attacks can be taken into the day-to-day responses. Why? Yesterday we were speaking about the fact that Hezbollah are now creating a new norm. Israel, ever since they added the return of the residents of the north as an objective of the war alongside the other objectives in Gaza, they said that we need to start attacking Hezbollah very heavily. Hezbollah told them, you won't return them in that way. You will only return them by having a ceasefire in Gaza, which will automatically mean we will stop our attacks. We're a supporting front and we're only escalating because you're escalating with us. Our purpose here is to stop the war. And if you increase your attacks against us, we will increase our attacks against you. And I can see some people commenting on a couple of things, which I'll get to in a sec. Any questions, I'll get to them after we finish with the topics that I want to speak about, and we'll open the space up for you. So Hezbollah are creating a new norm. That new norm is we are attacking Haifa regularly. We are attacking deep in the north. We are attacking areas closer to central Israel as part of the day-to-day attacks. So the most northern parts are already burnt. Main cities, main towns. People need to remember something, by the way. Many of the towns in North Israel have already been destroyed completely, like 80-90% of the houses destroyed. Civilian towns that were evacuated, that the IDF uses to hide in. They destroyed them completely. Now bigger towns and some cities, some have a status of a city, are burning completely and getting destroyed. Like Safad, it's being bombarded. And the Iron Dome isn't very effective. We're seeing more effectiveness from the Iron Dome and the areas of Haifa, close strategic areas, because of course in a city like Haifa, they're worried about the port, they're worried about the chemicals, they're worried about the strategic places. And of course in central Israel. And when it comes to central Israel, yesterday we had another hypersonic missile. Palestine 2 again being launched at Tel Aviv at a strategic military location, according to the military spokesperson of Ansarullah in Yemen, reaching its target. We saw images of Arrow 3 trying to intercept it and failing, but I did not see the landing. Although there were reports that it did land, Israel said that 17 people were wounded. 17 people were wounded running away to the bunkers. This is how they were wounded. So by rushing, well, that's a massive trip and fall if you're running that quickly. Or are you jumping down? What are you doing exactly? So from Israel's perspective, they're going on an all-out war. Who is that all-out war serving? That's the main question here. This man. Benjamin Netanyahu's polls rebound after aggressive Israeli operations. Since approving assassinations in Beirut and Tehran, the Premier's Likud party has taken the lead in national surveys. Surprise, surprise. Benjamin Netanyahu was facing massive criticism from the Israeli public, unprecedented protests in Israel to take him down, calling for Benjamin Netanyahu to resign. 800,000 people. You're talking about almost 8% of the Israeli population, as in the total overall population in and outside of Israel. Protesting against him, unprecedented pressure. The negotiating delegation already accepted a ceasefire 3 times before, and he was constantly putting hurdles. The negotiating delegation said many times, well, many members of them, that we'd have a positive vibe in the morning, go ahead, reach a deal, and in the evening he'll come up with something new. Something new, what? To hinder the prospect of a ceasefire. And you're talking about the majority of the Israelis. And by the way, they're not showing them, you know? Mainstream media doesn't like to show them. Some people in mainstream media, in particular in Western mainstream media, defend Netanyahu more than the censored Israeli media. More than them. And I'm not talking about like, again, 800,000 people. The people who were kidnapped in Gaza, the victims who were kidnapped, right, and released. Some of them participate in these protests. The committees of the Israelis who are imprisoned in Gaza, families of those people, the representatives in protests, what are they saying? This man is killing them. This man is killing Israelis. They call him crime minister. Blood is on his hands. He's doing it for his own purposes. He's sending people to die for his own war when his son is abroad. And every day that they're there, Israelis are getting killed. And the problem that Netanyahu started to face is that all of the eyes were on him. What does Netanyahu do? And Netanyahu, he has his tricks. Benjamin Netanyahu has tricks. He knows how to get himself out of trouble. He always knows how to divert attention. What did he do? Go on an all-out war with Lebanon, escalate with Lebanon. Was it necessary to escalate with Lebanon? If you're really concerned about the return of the people to the north, you're really concerned, do you think, well, that by expanding the war, you'll stop Hezbollah? You were saying that you wanted to eliminate Hamas to get the people back. To get the people back, and if you were genuine about your care for the Israeli people, you would have entered an immediate ceasefire and prisoner exchange talk, because Hamas even told you, I'm willing to talk to you now, and I conducted this operation because I already have 4 Israelis since 2014 that you forgot and don't care about. And any attempt to have a peaceful prisoner swap with you failed. So we had to do this. We have people under administrative detention. There's problems for the Palestinian people. Gaza is an open air prison. He listened to none of that. And he didn't care about the Israelis who were already in Gaza. But like he sold the lie that I need to eliminate Hamas in Gaza, I need to go to Gaza to bring the Israelis back, when most of the Israelis who were released alive were released through a peaceful negotiating process and a ceasefire. He is continuing. Now he's using the same excuse in Lebanon. And again, it shows how really ill-informed these people are who give him support again in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu's polls, now he has 25 mandates, next in opposition 19 mandates. So technically he can almost have a coalition if we go to an election. So it's serving him. Firstly, no more protests now. Well, there are protests, not like there's no protests. And some people, especially the families in Israel of those who are kidnapped in Gaza, they see this as a threat, because why? I mean, you've sealed the fate. You've sealed the fate of the Israelis who could have been, released in a peaceful talk. Let alone the fact that they, of course, killed them. Benjamin Netanyahu directly killed, not just by the negligence, the killing. They killed over 50 Israelis in the first month in Gaza, as confirmed by the Palestinian side, the Hamas and the other movements. And like the Israelis who were released confirmed, Yocheved Lifshitz, and then Noah Argamani even said, I had bruises all over my body because of the IDF attack. Lifshitz says they were attacked 3 times when they were being kidnapped to Gaza. Alongside others, of course, they applied a lot of pressure on some of the others to try to spin things through the media. But again, that's short-lived. And now he's trying to convince the Israeli public that this is the thing. Now, Lebanon is the thing. You need to follow me. And this is what's going to return the people. If his war, and oh, by the way, and there are calls to what? There are calls to eliminate Hezbollah. There are calls now to eliminate Hezbollah. Well, at least not officially, If it is officially, that'll be a death sentence, really. I mean, he said you're going to demolish the Hamas. I mean, Livni said that in 2008, 2009. You said that afterwards. You're not going to eliminate neither Hamas nor Hezbollah unless you eliminate the causes that they establish their resistance upon. In the case of Hamas, get rid of the causes that they establish their resistance on, the constant injustice against the Palestinian people, occupation, oppression, inequality, apartheid. In the case of Lebanon, reach a settlement with the Palestinian people, implement equality, get out of Shib'a farms, you still have a couple of areas, and then you will reach a peaceful solution. But no, he is hell-bent on more war and more blood. Taking down, first and foremost, Israelis with him by endangering them. And secondly, taking the whole region. Now, with what they're doing now, and with this level of escalation, by the way, I'm not sure if there's a lot of room for the opposing side to practice this strategic patience. I'm not sure how, you know, I don't know what's the response going to be to this now. If it's true that the Secretary General of Hezbollah was there and leading figures, let alone the head of the IRGC, Hussein Salami, sitting there in Al-Dahiya, you're talking about a big escalation. And, you know, whether they like it or not, they're being pulled by the neck to it. Iran. That's in Iran's case, by the way. We also had a statement coming from Ansarullah. Ansarullah in Yemen, also known as the Houthis. What did they say? They said the targeting of the southern suburb of Beirut, that is full of civilians, is an unprecedented barbarism, but not new, and we're not surprised on this Zionist clan. The persistence of the Zionist entity to continue conducting crimes, bloody crimes, and escalation, following an escalation, is happening amidst a massive failure and conspiracy on the resistance movements. The weapons being used in the latest attacks confirm again that the United States is a participant, a full participant in the bloodshedding of the innocent civilians. The aggression on Palestine and Lebanon is 100% American. We continue our solidarity with the Islamic resistance in Lebanon, and we reaffirm our confidence in Hezbollah and its leadership, political and military, and its solid support. We call on the Arab and Muslim and free people of the world for more solidarity to stop the war and aggression on Lebanon and Palestine. And the last thing that they said is the recent dangerous development on Lebanon opens the door for an all-out war that won't have any results but a massive destruction on this temporary entity and the war criminals. We're looking towards very intense days ahead. And these are the main things that I wanted to share with you. Let me open the space up for you. Check if you have any comments or questions. And thank you so much, everyone, for participating for another live stream. And Aini Anwar, Jane Mary, Susan Matheson, and Mudassar Hussein, thank you so much for your supers. Much appreciated. Let's see if we have any questions as well. If you wouldn't mind highlighting any of your questions or comments for me, because we have a lot of comments and we might miss them as well. And Ori Dekel, thank you so much for your super. Much appreciated. And the Virus 455 as well, thank you so much for your super. Much appreciated. Fatima is saying, so what is going with all the weapons we heard Hezbollah has? Because if Israel is blowing up your people, why are Israel breathing? That's a very interesting question. I'm sorry, I missed some of the supers. I think, Jane Mary, I think we included you, haven't we? And Lydia Rosata as well. And I'll get to your comments as well in a sec. But they were saying about Hezbollah. Well, firstly, because they don't really want to war. They don't want to escalate the war. They declared on the 8th of October that firstly, this is not an all-out war and we are participating in solidarity and to end the war on Gaza. We're not interested in all-out war on Israel. If we want to completely fill Israel with bombs, then we can cover the sunlight on Israelis, but that's not their purpose, to target heavily civilian populated areas deliberately. What they're doing is primarily focusing on the military side, military bases, military airports, factories that belong to the military industrial complex, to show Israel that we're not interested in all-out war, but the more Israel continued, the deeper they reached, the more sensitive locations they reached, like the 8,200 attack, the Mossad HQ attack, the Ramat David base attack, and other big, the David base attack. All of these attacks are important, but then again, firstly, they know Benjamin Netanyahu wants to drag everyone to an all-out war. They don't want to play to his hands as much as possible. But the thing is, again, Netanyahu and the United States, of course, because Netanyahu, Israel, and the US are one, they are making it almost inevitable. I mean, I would be surprised to see any de-escalation, right? And then again, don't forget what happened before this. We had talks about, oh no, we're looking for a ceasefire in Lebanon. And although Netanyahu said no ceasefire, no nothing. But there were talks, from the US and a couple of Western countries, talks about ceasefire. And all of a sudden he comes and escalates. This is what he does. Whenever he was so close to reaching a ceasefire, that would be in favor of the Palestinian people and the Israeli people, he came and committed the massacre. So once calling a Hamas leader, MahmoodOD here, MahmoodOD there, only as an excuse to commit more barbarism. And that attack in Khan Yunis, he landed heavy missiles on tents. You've seen the images. Tents, body parts everywhere, body parts, children. And you take a foot and a hand, and beyond horror. But again, I'm not sure how much they would be able to contain it after this, if I'm honest with you. And Steph as well, thank you so much for your super. So thank you for your perspective, much appreciated. Did I missed one of your super questions. Let's see if we can try and reach it here. And Dr. X as well, thank you for super. Said, I have permission to move the sofa, but I believe it won't make enough room for a giant missile. Do they have more compact stuff? No, they don't. That's if your wife allows you to move the sofa, if you have a wife. But yeah, that guy told me my wife doesn't allow me to move the sofa, how am I going to fit a missile in the living room, he said. Okay. Marvin, that's interesting. Here, West propaganda trying to blame Trump assassination attempt on Iran's IOS war complex and want war with Iran. It's interesting that you mentioned the war complex, the military-industrial complex. They are the main people benefiting. These people are popping champagnes now, counting the cash. 8.7 billion to Israel now. Who's that going to? That probably doesn't leave the United States. It just goes from your money to Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or Boeing or what have you. All of the companies that, benefit. And Trump, yes, Trump is saying, if I was in power now, he's saying I would destroy Iran. But who does that serve? These all-out wars, who do they serve? Really? We were hopeful after World War I and World War II that humanity, understood perhaps that, the era of armed conflict is not really great for humanity. But then again, so long as you have people benefiting and moved by greed and completely lacking any human values or empathy, this is what you get. People constantly calling for war, and they'll use any pretext to do that. In the form of Israel, you're talking about using the victimhood of the Jewish people only to commit a genocide against other people, and contradicting yourself and this at the same time. Like Benjamin, you said Israel is supposed to be the safe haven for Jewish people. Israel is the death camp of Jewish people now by what they're doing. What safety? People want to flee and live elsewhere, look for security, where they can raise their kids without this toxic indoctrination from the day that they're born, right? And brainwashing, systematic brainwashing. And again, some people still fall for that. Marvin is also saying, as China stepped up arming acts of resistance, haven't heard about this, just Russia, any other nations arming resistance. Well, listen, Russia, China, Iran, these people don't want war. You know, one of the reasons they banned Russian media is for you not to hear more common sense than Western leaders. Before anyone started to say, I'm not like being an apologist for anyone here, I support none of them. But if you listen to the tone of the leaders in China and in Russia, you don't hear the same hostility from like you hear from NATO and the United States administration. They genuinely don't want war. They genuinely do not want war. However, in the form of the United States, again, you're talking about a country that treats the whole world as its backyard and view people as raw material or currency. Sometimes, that's if they're fortunate, by the way. Where they don't need them, they'll consider them as nothing. They'll tell you they're terrorists or baddies or whatever it is, or just don't talk about them so that they can continue with their... but China, they're really genuinely not interested, but they're seeing that it will be inevitable at some point to have some sort of participation. Like in the form of Russia, they know that, firstly, you know, anyone who has the peripheral vision really and looking at things from a strategic perspective knows very well that the United States way before any Ukrainian crisis or anything, were heading towards Russia to go and get Russia. They have oil and gas and rich and powerful, and Moscow is not far from East Europe, and they want them. They want the state, right? China know that. China know if they go against Russia, they'll go against them again, right? And if Israel succeeds, led by Benjamin Netanyahu in its project, you're looking at expansion. Now he's threatening Jordan. Jordan, they have a peace treaty with Jordan. The longest borders with Jordan. Now he says, I'm building a wall. Why are you building a wall? Are you planning to go and attack inside of Jordan, a country that you have a peace treaty with? A country that helped you intercept missiles from Iran? We are looking towards something big, and the United States administration are acting. Biden and the Pentagon today were saying, we had no idea about this Israeli attack. What do you mean you had no idea about the Israeli attack? Supposedly the approval call came from the UN headquarters in New York. When you can find out what app I'm using and who I'm chatting to at 3 a.m. What are these people talking about? But they're making it inevitable for something bigger, by the way. It's not looking like, because escalation after escalation after escalation, and this man has enabled Netanyahu. You say you're keen on de-escalating and hopeful and positivity. Who cares? Who cares when you're giving him the money and the arms? Who cares? Right? Earlier today, I saw this tweet someone posted. Well, it was Breezy, I think. Our American friends offer us money, arms, and advice. We take the money, we take the arms, and we decline the advice. Moshe Dayan, previous Israeli military leader, quoted him. That's how Israel's behaving. Give me the money, give me the arms, thank you, and I'm not going to take the advice. And in Netanyahu's case, he's doing that now with, of course, a continuation of the theater of the negotiations. Like, he'll go to the negotiations, right? The American administration will tell him, okay, Mr. Netanyahu, 20 billion, but please act like you're going towards a ceasefire. But he'll act. He'll like he's going towards a ceasefire. Holy Mahmoud, do you think there will be a ground invasion? Any idea why Netanyahu cut his trip short? Listen, I have unverified information that There are American troops preparing for a ground invasion to help Israel in Lebanon, which is concerning and alarming, but again, not surprising. When Israel conducted a state inquiry after what they described and labeled as a failure in the 2006 war, many in the Israeli army said at the time that we didn't really have a clear strategy. And there was talk at the time that the United States administration, we still had Bush and Condoleezza Rice, they were leading that war and ordering the IDF what to do for their feud with Iran. Because they know that Hezbollah is like the crown when it comes to the resistance movements. They have a special status, and they'll use Israel against them. That's why in Israel, at a certain period, you used to hear them always threatening and warning from Iran. We always used to think that, oh, a war is imminent. Tomorrow it's going to happen. They're going to attack Iran. Whoa. One day away from the nuclear bomb, the next week it'll be, 7 days, then, 2 years, then 1 year, then they have nuclear capability. And all of that appeared to be something related to what the US was doing with Iran, right? Now they're talking about it, so we wouldn't be surprised. But ground invasion, although it does not make any military sense, and although it will end up with a massive failure, 20 times worse than Gaza, he can probably still go ahead and do it. Why? Because Netanyahu and Israel did not make any sense with what they've done in Gaza from a military perspective, from a political perspective, and from an international perspective, let alone a societal perspective when it comes to the actual Israelis, who many of them now openly declare that I'm done with this Zionism idea of a Jewish state. It's all garbage, right? They're trying to react, right, what they've done in 1948, but today, 2024, is not in 1948. But he can still go ahead. Why? Because there is a cult that still supports him. You need to understand, this is how Israel is run now. It's like in a cult manner. You're talking about people who are running the country. I mean, it was bad without them, but with them now, you're talking about levels of worse. So he might still go on a ground invasion, again, to poke them even more and more and more, so that they can get this all-out war. And then we can see things happening a bit more clearly. US participation, genuine control over certain territories. Maybe they'll go to Jordan then, and maybe Egypt, because some people in the Israeli cabinet now are calling to occupy Sinai, the second biggest country that they have a peace treaty with, or the first, to be more accurate, before Jordan. Ministers in the government, Amichai Eliyahu, member of the party of Itamar Ben-Gvir, Jewish Power, Otzma Yehudit, calling to occupy Sinai. And again, this was the plan from the beginning. Push the Palestinian population to Sinai so that they can continue doing some attacks against you, or you can have even a pretext or a false flag or whatever. And then you say, I want to have a buffer zone in Sinai. And then all of Sinai, and then maybe Cairo too. And the Egyptian government was aware. And they did not go ahead with that plan, despite the fact that they had international pressure against them. Juenu, if the slaughter ever ends, do you think Israel will eventually, with the help of its lackeys in Western politics and media, be able to rehabilitate its image on the world stage? No, I genuinely don't think so. And I don't think whether we do or don't see any potential de-escalation very soon, whether when it comes to Gaza or Lebanon in terms of a ceasefire or in the form of a ceasefire, it will be very long-lived and successful. We're talking about that's it, the end game. Who thought that a war on Hamas, the smallest organization in what is labeled as the resistance front against Israel, would take them a year only for them to confirm 3 days ago, as confirmed by Israel's biggest newspaper, one of the biggest newspapers, that Hamas now controls all of Gaza. Hamas controls, in effect, 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. Well, what did you go and wage the war for? What did your people die for? Exactly. Where are the hostages? Where are they? Where are the prisoners of war? What are you doing? It's beyond that stage. Clearly, there is a strategic vision for a new Middle East now. Israel probably knew, not to the scale, that something was about to happen on the 7th of October. There were elements that make us establish an idea that Israel did have some sort of knowledge, or at least some people in Israel, if not, the main top figures. One of the biggest banks in Israel, Bank Leumi, had very dodgy, very dodgy stock bets. I think they shorted something or betted on something and made approximately 600 million. Then 2 weeks into the war, and you declare it a war, by the way, it was a declared war, and they were in a state of war and the state of emergency. 2 weeks in the war, what does Netanyahu do? Hands out gas exploration contracts to multinational companies in Gaza. Your people are kidnapped. You're facing an existential threat. It's the biggest war. Do you have time to think about gas exploration? Think about it yourself. You're leading a country. Your people have been kidnapped. Catastrophe. The first thing I'd do is think, I need to make sure that I don't hurt any of them. That's the first thing you think if you're genuinely worried about them. What does he do? Carpet bomb Gaza. And then confirm that he killed them, killed many of them. Carpet bomb it when you care about them? If you genuinely care about them and they were kidnapped to that location, you would say, no, I would take every measure possible not to hurt them. Let me talk with Hamas then. Hamas, listen, stop this now, otherwise I will. Let's negotiate, let's get with this, get the people back, then think about a blow or whatever you want to do, right? He didn't do that immediately. Then, of course, the people in the IDF who said that, oh, we heard or saw something suspicious, we reported it to our commanders, only for them to ignore us. Then other intel bodies in Israel saying that, oh yeah, we had prior knowledge. Then we had a report saying that Egypt even knew that something was about to happen. And what did you build the 1.2 billion wall for? 3 years before. A wall costing them 1.2 billion. Over the ground, under the ground, sensors, technology, metal detectors. They detect a fly. They'll detect a fly in Gaza if they want to. Shots, screenshots, record every 10 seconds. Not to say that Hamas did an operation. Many people say they did certain mistakes in that operation. Fair enough, something happened. But some people in Israel knew. Otherwise, you wouldn't stop prioritizing financial gain and financial plans on what you label as the existential war of Israel. Again, capitalizing on the misery, on the suffering, right? And then bringing again the talk about the Holocaust, and we're living the Holocaust too. The emotional stuff to brainwash people even further. And then terror content laws in Israel. Oh, if you watch terror content, and Lord knows what they consider as terror content, you can be in prison. 7th of October denial laws. Oh, so if I suspect the official narrative of Netanyahu and his clan, and I'm in trouble. Oof. So long to freedom of speech. Their image will not be nothing will rehabilitate anything either, and that's not going to happen. I'm telling you from now, I don't think that's going to happen. They genuinely take this man down in Israel and strive for a peaceful solution once and for all, just get it over and done with. Or they continue up until we see Israel as in its current form ending. That doesn't necessarily mean like extermination, elimination, like they want, but no, it's Zionist apartheid, oppressive, occupying, violent regime ending. That's it, between the Jordan River to the sea, equality. Your life is worth as everyone else's life. You're not superior to them. You're not above them for your Jewishness or for your whatever. No nation state law. No, this land is ours. No, nothing. Equal rights for everyone. Jews, Arabs, Muslims, Christians, everyone. Palestinians, Israelis. Or a continuation in even worse war. If we're going to have a slight de-escalation, we'll probably have a slight de-escalation that is very short-lived. Why? Well, because this is the pattern you see. Look at the pattern. The pattern is Israel always shied away from dealing with the root causes of the problem. They always want to manage the conflict and temporary solutions and sugarcoating the garbage. Now, what we saw is the only period where there was a prospect, was when we had a temporary ceasefire. And in that temporary ceasefire, Israelis were released, Palestinians were released, things were slightly de-escalating, and then we had an option to continue the temporary ceasefire 3 days at a time, with each side declaring a new list of people they want to be released and an agreement and a couple of details. And of course, the devil lies in the details, but there was an option. What does Gallant do? Go and sign the restarting of the war. Israel did that, not Hamas. They decided to wage the war again. So you're talking about people who are going at it. It doesn't look like we're going to have any sort of settlement. Okay, let's see if we have anything else. And perceived reality. Hi, Mahmoud. Do you think Netanyahu has a clear long-term strategy? He's acting irrationally. I think his ultimate goal is to drag the US and Iran into a conflict. I think if you wanted me to give you like an instant reaction, Netanyahu is serving the military industrial complex and the big money benefiting from the war. Why? Because his tone is constantly racist, constantly escalation, constantly war, seeking war, doing things to provoke more war, killing here, killing there, in Tehran, in everything, war. And some people are benefiting from that. Short-term strategy, he has his delusions. He has the delusions of grandeur. Netanyahu is a psychopathic lunatic. He thinks he's more than the King David. He views himself as the King of Judea. More than Ben Gurion, he's more than everyone. He wants to be, remembered in history as the King of Kings of Israel. So he has this problem. But he also does have a certain strategy. That certain strategy is called Benjamin Netanyahu. You can add Sarah Netanyahu and Yair Netanyahu too, but it's primarily, Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, or Benjamin Milikovsky, his original name. Irrationality, you said that as it is. The immediate response to the 7th of October attacks was an irrational, hate-filled, rage-filled, barbaric response against civilians. I'm gonna eliminate the Gazan population. That's why I said human animals and kill all of them and kill the women and children. And now they're declaring outright, by the way, today, Channel 14 in Israel, the channel that is most aligned with Benjamin Netanyahu, they were having a panel debate with Israeli doctors and professors sitting there in Channel 14 in this panel discussion. And they were saying, why does the world is not understanding us? It's not clear to the world. They don't know that we are representing Western values and democracy here. And we're defending the West from these people because they want to go against them, right? And then another one will tell you, do you care about the Gazans? No. Do you care about the Lebanese? No, we care about the Israelis, so we do what's suitable for the Israelis. Again, blinding their own people that this strategy is massacring the Israelis. It's the biggest threat to the Israelis. So he has strategies, but he is irrational. And in the long term, he's definitely not looking for the benefit of anyone, but primarily himself. Alicia, Mahmoud, what are they waiting to use hypersonic missiles? Well, Ansarullah are testing the defense capabilities of Israel with the hypersonic missiles. So far, with their hypersonic missile that they called Palestine 2, the Iron Dome, the Arrow 3 couldn't intercept it. Arrow 3 is a hypersonic exo-atmospheric air defense system, one of the most advanced in the world. In the recent video that we saw it chasing, right, the Yemeni missile and failing. Again, I did not see the landing, but it looked like it was landing without being intercepted. So that means they're failing even with the interception. So are they testing the air defense capabilities? And if so, is that going to be in preparation for a big attack with many hypersonic missiles on Israel that Israel would not be able to contain? That's a very important question here. They could be doing that. They could be doing that, and it doesn't look like Israel has the answer, because again, you're talking about over 10 times the speed of sound when it comes to the hypersonic missiles of Yemen versus approximately 5 times the speed of Arrow 3, meaning the Arrow 3 is inferior when it comes to the speed, let alone the intense levels of heat that it projects this missile with its speed. So it's unlikely that they still have an, and they activated the David Sling and Iron Dome, and they failed as well. Asim Akhtar, thank you so much for your super, much appreciated, my friend. Salam just pitching, appreciate the reporting and time you spend collecting the information for us all. Much appreciated, my friend, my pleasure. And thank you so much for tuning in and for your kind and generous support, much appreciated. Let's see if we have anything else as well. Gullyberg, I believe Netanyahu, or Satanyahu, you're calling him, used the trip to New York to get some genocidal green light. I think he already has the green light. Netanyahu knows the game very well. And the game is they get what they want and they spin the American presidents on their fingers. They know that very well. So the United States is as, if not more, involved in this than Israel. The United States, excuse me, is worse than Israel. Why? Because the United States is the enabler. And I like to give the example of a psychopathic, murderous lunatic with a history of homicide against civilians in a ward, locked up, and the warden is the United States of America, coming, freeing him, and handing him keys to a big warehouse full of weapons, and even guidance to where the other people are that they want them to target, and telling them, go ahead, and telling him in the process, oh, don't go insane. He's a psychopath. He's not all there with it. What are you doing? So they're worse than them because they enabled them and they give them and they provide them. Israel is nothing without the support of the United States. Nothing. They will not survive. So all of the talk that's coming from the United States administration is lies upon lies, and Netanyahu knows that. And he is capitalizing on that, and in the process killing everyone in the region and taking everyone to potentially a regional war that can escalate to a world war that can potentially have nuclear weapons that would be devastating on humanity. So it's dangerous. And you can't be blind. And you can't sit on the sidelines, by the way. You cannot be sitting on the side because it's coming for you too. No matter how much they try and spin, no matter how much they try and intimidate you or terrorize you ideologically or politically or from an awareness perspective or this and that, all of these games, it's coming for you because an act is happening. And if you justify this act or are quiet about this act, then you've legitimized the act. So tomorrow it can be you under any pretext. Under any pretext. Marvin, big money trillionaires fund wars. Do you think this money, Zionists, will allow Zion to be destroyed? They never cared about Zion. They never cared about anything to do with Jewishness. It's all a neo-colonialist move, using the Jews as a front for a neo-colonialist project under the pretext of the Jewish people and the Jerusalem and Zion and the Zionist Christians in the United States. Because don't forget, the ideology of Zionism, in essence, before it started to become Jewish after Herzl, it was Christian, right? The belief that the Jewish people could come to the land and based on their interpretation, by the way, not the interpretation of all Christianity or mainstream Christianity, okay? Then you had Herzl, late 19th century. Herzl was struggling to convince Jewish rabbis, by the way, with the idea of Zionism. He started to succeed in the beginning of the 20th century. And when he started to have negligible, small success, it started to gain more momentum. And then, of course, they sold us this specific narration and capitalized on World War II and the Holocaust and the struggle and the oppression of the Jewish people in Europe, right? And what they faced in Europe. And who was calling for a solution? Europe. The final solution to the Jewish question. Who helped them? Zionism. Zionism provided the answer. You want a solution to the Jewish question? Here you go, Zionism. And then they collaborated with Nazism. And go read up about the Avara Agreement. Zionism collaborating with Nazism. And that's what only was published, by the way. What hasn't been published is far, far greater. So they don't care about Zion. They don't care about Judaism. Herzl, some people even suspect that the man was genuinely Jewish. Many Orthodox Jewish people curse Herzl and the day he was born, and they despise Zionism. Right? Zionism came to ethnicize Judaism, to connect them to a land, and therefore, and we started to have the use of the term, again, in a wrong manner, anti-Semitism, more popularly used or commonly used after the 20th century, to connect the Jewish people to a land, and therefore almost criminalize the criticism of Israel because it's linked to the Jewish people. How absurd. All of that is very well planned. And you had the interference with some Christian movements, interference with, of course, Zionism to be the ultimate representative of Jews, some interference with Muslim communities too, and even some in Buddhism and other movements as well, this ideology. But it wasn't about that. It was not about them. Were there no Jews in Palestine before Israel? There were. They not living peacefully? They were. We have the Shomronim community in the West Bank sitting side by side with the Palestinian people with the oldest proven scriptures of the Torah and more evidence that the Temple Mount is in Har Gerizim rather than the Temple Mount like they like to always tell us. It's not about that. They use that to have these conflicts and strategic control and hold. Why does the US say that Israel is like a big aircraft carrier in the Middle East? Well, for the love of the Jewish people, you wouldn't call a safe land an aircraft carrier, because an aircraft carrier is a very dangerous place to be in. It can be a place where you can be attacked. But again, this mass brainwashing of many Jewish people led to that. But then again, people are, that's it now. Many people are departing from the ideology of Zionism and are things clearly. It's not about Judaism, and it's not about the Jewish people. It's about a neo-colonialist project in the Middle East that serves the people at the top, not the common average person, who benefits from constant wars and niggling and racism and oppression and supremacy and apartheid. And the recipe failed. The recipe failed a long time ago. Haven't you realized from history? Fascism doesn't work. It does not work. And it's very simple. Implement equality. Why do we have the UN Declaration of Universal Human Rights? Implement it, for heaven's sake. And that's it. Everyone has equal rights. Rights for food, liberty, security, choose their destiny, right? Without discrimination. And also Marvin saying, thank you. He said, you think also a war about stopping BRICS. There is an element to that. More and more countries are joining the BRICS. The BRICS are talking about more currency leverage against the US, Egypt, Iran, UAE join. More countries are due to join. And it's a power, you know. They have their own Olympics now, the BRICS Olympics, and it's a counter power. And again, it's safer to be in a multipolar world. It's not safe to be in a unipolar world. You need to be in a world where power is distributed equally. As much as people like to have all of the power in their hand, that's not good. That's a way for corruption. No matter how good and enlightened you think you are, right? And again, the United States is trying to impose that by power. So a lot of it is down to the BRICS as well. But again, I don't think it's going to succeed. Why? Because there are things that are facts now. What did these people understand? The opponents of the United States. That, even though they don't call themselves opponents, by the way, you know, even Russia still says our friends in the West, and they don't tell you that. They realize that the US only deals with them, the US and the NATO, which is an extension to the US. Europe has no, you know, sovereignty or whatever. Don't forget about that. If you live in Europe and you think you're independent, forget about that. That's delusional. You're run by corporate America, corporate military industrial complex, elite bankers, all of that. You run by that. They realize that they only impose their ideology and will through power and violence, and they realize that no, I need to become more and more powerful. This is how I get to say why, because the world is run by power. It's not run by values and morals and virtue and human rights and international law and one UN resolutions. And I say wonderful because, to be fair, some of the UN resolutions are so good. One of them is the UN Declaration of Universal Human Rights. It's beautiful. Really, if you believe in equal human rights, it's amazing. Is it implemented? No. Anything that goes against Israel and its oppression against the Palestinian people, veto. Don't we have resolutions for the Palestinian people and other resolutions for other nations across the world, by the way? Of course, we're talking about the Palestinian topic primarily. There are. What are they doing with it? That's why I said in the beginning, you might as well declare the UN dead. If Netanyahu can have a speech in the UN, declare them. That's a bankruptcy, moral bankruptcy. That's it. Trill Iman, thank you for that. You said Times of India, Hindustan Times, Jazeera, BBC confirms Hassan Nasrallah still alive. Also, I forgot, Iran also confirmed it. You can't kill a chat. Listen, I heard people confirming, but as far as I'm concerned, I need to hear that from Hezbollah. I don't want to hear that from Iran or someone media aligned and close to Hezbollah. So far, and we can check live here, we haven't had a confirmation from Hezbollah that he is still. So there's still suspicion. There is still suspicion. All we know is that Israel is attacking more in Beirut. Waves of attacks in Al-Dahiya. Right? They're attacking in Beirut. Again, strategic weapons, they're saying. But we haven't had a confirmation from Hezbollah yet. And, excuse me, so long as we don't have that confirmation, there's going to be room to suspect. Here you go. That's Israeli Ynet is saying coastal missiles, strategic weapons, waves of attacks on Dahiya. The IDF also marked the airport. Here we go. Now they're going to attack the airport. The IDF is increasing some of its attacks in Beirut and southern Lebanon in order to detract from Hezbollah's essential capabilities. Secondary explosions in the Lilchi neighborhood. What is it in Hebrew? What are they saying about that? Lilki. Oh, okay, because they Har Tehreek they attacked before, where they say Nasrallah was assassinated. There will be challenging days. Iran has been warned. We will not allow the transfer of IDF to Hezbollah in any way. Hostile flights will not land in Beirut. Okay. These are the coastal sea missiles Hezbollah, which has lost contract with Nasrallah. So they're escalating, They're escalating. And he threatened Hagari, the compulsive liar. They're still increasing. And again, whenever there's a sign of some sort of, potential ceasefire or what have you, have something. But now they are using every opportunity to escalate further and further. They are not de-escalating. Kate is saying, Mahmoud, was Israel spook and decided to trigger the pager gate earlier than scheduled? Well, we've had multiple reports surrounding that. The first one was they had the plan to explode the pagers for 10 years now, and they decided to do it now. Then we had another report saying that Israel had an initial plan to explode the pagers after they begin an all-out war on Hezbollah. But two people from Hezbollah suspected something, and then they decided to do everything. And there is the common report that they chose the time, they chose the escalation, they caught them off guard, and they decided to do it. And then it happened. Whatever it is, there has been a failure from Hezbollah's side. How it reached, why, due diligence checks, no checks, is there someone saying something? All of these things. Nakhib Salam Mahmoud, Israel started using 5,000-pound bombs supplied by the USA. How will they be stopped? As long as the USA continues to fund with their unlimited funds, I fear they won't stop killing. It will not stop so as long as Israel is not faced with the same threat and damage that it inflicts on other nations. If you had a country, a side, a party, a movement, someone threatening to level parts of Israel the way they leveled Gaza, they will continue. We don't have that intimidation. And Israel is used to being the spoilt child or B-child of the United States and getting away with mass murder, and they are. Why? Because the people that they are supported by, well, they have a vast history of mass genocides, thousands of times greater than Israel, enslavements of other nations, and supremacy and genocide and everything. So they won't be stopped unless they're faced with resistance from the other side. And again, Israel, although they saw hands-on from the beginning that Nothing stops the Palestinian people from calling for their rights until you give them their rights, and you haven't so far. They continued down the same path. Increase, escalation. The only time where we had an inkling of possibility of peace was with the Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. And there was a hopeful situation in Israel, and even you had hundreds of thousands protesting in Israel, by the way, at the time. Of course, you had people opposing them, led by Netanyahu, by the way. Oh, peace, yes, finally a solution, live side by side with the Palestinian people. What happened? Bang, killed. 3 bullets, shady assassination, deep state assassination, probably coordinated with the United States. Lord knows if Netanyahu had something to do with it. The official narration stinks, by the way. So they won't stop the killing, so long as they're enabled by the US. Sherry, I thought his surprise might be air defense. Do you think they've got any? I know they have some because they've used it. They've used it against the largest Israeli UAVs. They took down, I think, 2 or 3 of the largest ones and others alongside it. Maybe they are preparing it for an attack against strategic places. Maybe they are preparing it and will deploy it once an interception or a confirmed hit will be confirmed by them, because they know their limitations when it comes to that. If Israel is going to use F-35s, for example, well, they have no hope. They would need S-400s or 500s or whatever, or 300 to a minimum. Reports say that they have the SA-22 potentially, again, not confirmed. They did not declare what they have. They might be waiting to use it against more strategic places like, again, the airport or power grids or what have you. However, and there are more talks about Israel, by the way, now they're talking about this panel that they had earlier on Channel 14. They were saying that Lebanese need to open the tap waters and not find water. We should start blowing all of their gas stations. They need to know that they can't drink and they can't move. Look at this. Levels of depravity, right? So they might wait for that moment, but again, it probably won't be enough as well for them. And another thing that might be delaying a bigger war is the fact that Iran might not have these yet as well. People need to know that. That's why when we heard the initial statements of the Secretary General of Hezbollah, he was saying that this is not an all-out war. In his first speech after the participation of Hezbollah in Al-Aqsa flood. Riza saying, thank you for that. Riza is saying, let's not forget that Iran, under major sanctions, has sacrificed so much financially to support, arm, and share sophisticated technology with all the resistance forces. The resistance forces will not have hardly anything without Iran. Iran is the leading resistance country. Anyone saying anything otherwise is delusional and ill-informed and moved by propaganda or sectarianism or genuine maliciousness against the people that Iran supports. And many people like to think that they are well-informed when they're really ignorant, by the way, when it comes to Iran. So, of course, they do support them very heavily. Iran supported the Palestinian cause before Hamas existed. Before. And they sacrifice. Of course they do. And I'm telling you, some people are completely out of it when it comes to Iran. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what are the other countries doing. What are they doing? Go ahead, give me a list of everyone, every country in the Middle East, and what are they doing to the Palestinian cause publicly and paying the price for it? Nothing in comparison to Iran. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. That's why there's so much hostility against Iran, internally and externally. Instead of saying God bless Iran and God protect Iran, They go and swear at them. Well, no wonder you're cursed and you're in the situation you're in. Like some of the Arabs and the Muslims who are swearing, no wonder you're in this situation, because when there's someone who's helping you or helping the people, right, get their rights, you go ahead against them because you're thick. But again, some people are beyond, beyond repair. Few screws loose, as they say. Amr, thank you so much for your super. Let's see if we have anything else before we wrap up. We've had almost 1.5 hours now, and we don't have anything else significant, at least to my knowledge, to cover before we wrap up. Yes, apart from the fact that, we have escalation, we have Hezbollah attacking as well. And Marine 212 saying, thank you for that. Is Israel prepping to use nukes in Lebanon and Gaza? I don't think they'll use them in Gaza. It's too close. Tactical in Lebanon, perhaps, but again, that will have consequences. Once you open up the box of nuclear weapons, expect them on you. You already have Russia threatening with nukes. If they use strategic missiles deep into Russian territory, like the puppet thug genocide supporting Zelensky is asking his masters to do. He's asking permission to attack deep in Russia. And again, in Russia, they've had all of this escalation when they had peace talks. They almost reached a ceasefire. And Putin was calling for a full peace process, not just a ceasefire. Then they ordered the little puppet genocide supporting Zelensky to go and attack Kursk and nuclear facilities. And he's attacking them in Moscow. I wouldn't be surprised, but then again, prepare for retaliation if you're, if you're going to justify that. Marvin, Iran has a Jewish population, large Jewish population. They live in peace in Iran. Our Zionist Israel don't communicate with Iranian rebels. Any comments on this? Well, there's a large Jewish population inside of Israel who's anti-Zionist, who the state beats up and imprisons regularly. I post the images on my community tab regularly. The other day, some of the Orthodox community were protesting against the government. Any excuse, beat them with shoes, sticks, bang, bang, bang. If you're doing that with the Jews inside of Israel, the Jews of Iran are natives of Iran, and they love their country. As a matter of fact, they asked their country to take action against Israel after they assassinated Haniya. Don't fall for the Zionists' claim that they are the spokespersons for the Jewish people. They're not. And you have more and more people rising up in the Jewish community who are Zionists, by the way, and paying the price with family members. And some of them think ties with family members, and I know many of them. And I speak with many of them, and I'm in a good relationship with many of them. And they describe the change, the shift. And again, look at the pro-Palestinian protests. Some people will have only Jewish protests. So the Iranian Jews, they love their country, and they despise Zionism, like many Jews in Israel despise Zionism. And C-Kid, thank you so much for that, much appreciated. I'm sorry, by the way, of course, I'm going to miss some of the comments unless something is highlighted. And Ian is saying, YouTube won't let me share the 1983 TV commercial where USA offers Germans a missile for every front yard. Dang. Oh yeah, certain things, my friend, they're not allowed. James Drapkin, you're saying about the map that Netanyahu showed, saying as the countries of the blessings and the countries of the curse that Netanyahu showed, and the countries of the blessing included Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Sudan, and the countries of the curse included Iran, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. Okay. a comment on that. Netanyahu is a salesman. He goes up with these images. Do you remember? I'm not sure if some of you saw this in 2019. I think he had this. He held a cup like a cup of water, and he was pouring water on it, and he was talking with the Iranian people. To the Iranian people, we don't have a problem with the Iranian people. We have a problem with the mullah, with the regime of the Ayatollahs. And we can help you with water because you're suffering with water. He always likes to do these things. And now he's doing it with this map. And then before the nuclear bomb and. Nonsense. Firstly, Egypt. His main ally said Egypt is a participant in the 7th of October. Smotrich said Egypt bears responsibility for the 7th of October attacks. Why? Because they allowed missiles to go to Hamas. It's all an act to show, to cause friction and problems, and for people to start saying, "Oh, look, see, these are genuinely." We know his tricks. Fortune Ali, thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. And let's see the last couple of comments before we go. And okay, last one here, and we'll end it there. Digital Orientation Resolutions Incorporation. Nice name. Considering the new developments in Beirut, I think Iran will show its retaliation this weekend. Listen, I'll tell you something. In April, after Israel's terror attack in Syria, killing members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, Iran said there will be a response from the resistance. I said at the time that I don't think Iran will attack Israel. I think someone will attack Israel. But Iran went ahead with an unprecedented, game-changing attack on Israel. Biggest drone attack in history, hypersonic missiles landing in Israel. Many, of course, intercepted, but what they wanted to land, landed. Now, they said they will retaliate for Hania. They saw that the US, and they confirmed that the US was lying to them. That's Pezeshkian, the president himself. And now you have this escalation in Beirut. And again, like we said in the beginning, how long can they practice strategic patience? We don't know. Is there a likelihood for them going in? Yes. Is there a likelihood that they won't? Yes. Is it going to be a right move? I don't know their calculations. They are the ones with the country. They are the ones who know their weaknesses and their strong points. And despite the fact that many people, rightfully so, have a desire to see this end once and for all, the countries that are participating also have their own calculations, not to justify nor to diss. But what Israel is doing with the United States, hand in hand, if not ordered by the United States, some people in Israel say Benjamin Netanyahu is a US agent planted there to end Israel. He's there. It's as if he is, it's as if Benjamin Netanyahu, and I'm talking about like some of the intellectuals in Israel and some people in the security establishment, military establishment, say it's as if Netanyahu, no, one journalist said it's as if Netanyahu was planted there to bring disaster on the state of Israel by what he's doing. Let's think about it. All that he's doing is bringing more and more disaster. Sounds like someone who doesn't really genuinely have the benefit of his own country and people in mind by doing what he's doing. And they might be right, and they might be wrong. But what's for sure is Israel is poking and expanding its far-reaching terror and genocide and depravity. And I think there will be a limit to how much the opposing side can handle or practice strategic patience. And we'll end it there. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for another live stream. Much appreciated. I'll have another video after this live stream. Thank you for everyone who sent, thank you for everyone who commented, by the way, and I'm sorry I missed some of them. Usually you'll, of course, miss most of the comments. Thank you, but I appreciate, of course, your support and your contributions. Highly appreciated. Thank you so much for everyone who sent supers. And again, I'm sorry if I missed some of the names here, by the way, too. Asim Akhtar, thank you so much. Aini Anwar, Jane Mary, Susan Matheson, Mudassar Hussein, The Virus, Lydia, Rosato, Steph, Dr. X, Marvin Vergas, Trill Iman, Reza, Amr Marine 212, C-Kid, Ian Wagner, Fartun Ali, Samba Boy, and Natron ZX. Thank you very much for your supers, much appreciated. I'll hopefully be with you, like I said, in a video, and tomorrow we'll hopefully have another live stream or video or both. Apart from that, stay blessed, take care, have a restful night or rest of the day or evening, depending on where you are. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Take care.